And so I'll start with the first one. These ones I think make sense to do in order. So the first precept or advice is every yoga should be performed as one. And so some of the this one is like that. There are a number of these where it takes some explanation. What does that mean? But and by yoga they don't mean like postures. In this case, it's not that. What they're saying, what they mean is this: is actually the meaning of the word yoga is union. And like in Sanskrit, that's the root yoke, like to yoke together two things. Like if you say, oh, the cart and the horse are yoked together, that's the same verbal root as yoga. So it's to join two things. So the idea here, what the actual advice is that you're trying to join together all aspects of your life with something. That's actually the idea. In other words, whatever you're doing, whether you're getting up in the morning, or you're taking a shower, or you're cooking lunch, or you're talking to a friend, the idea is that you're trying to yoke or yogize, that's not join together two things, whatever that activity is, and the one. So what's the one? The one, in this case, which it won't come as a surprise given the contemplation we just did, is compassion or bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is the ultimate expression of compassion. So the idea there is to link all your actions with compassion, with universal altruism. So that the idea here would be that that's how you train your mind. So that's what we'll say Atisha is advising here. He's advising you. He's saying if you want to have a meaningful life, if you want to have a good life, then whatever you're doing, think and feel. I'm not just doing this for myself. I'm living my life for all beings. Right? When I wake up in the morning, this day, the purpose of this day is for all beings. When you're eating lunch, you don't think, oh, I'm just trying to eat as much as I can, or I'm trying to, whatever, I want to taste the best, but you actually think, okay, I'm eating to be strong, I want to be of service, I want to have a meaningful life, I want to be helpful to others. So it's just saying you train your mind, right, to join together whatever ordinary activity you're doing with compassion or universal altruism. So that makes sense. That's their advice about how to live your life. I'm going to go through the first three, and then I'll sort of pause for a minute. So that's the first advice. The second advice says all errors are to be amended by one means. In this case, I don't know, I think the word error is actually a funny translation of there, but really what it means is this, actually if you think of it this way, if you think of like a wise parent advising, what they're saying is this, is life is not going to be always easy. There are going to come hard experiences. People are going to criticize you, you're going to lose things, whether it's in your town, in your country, in your family, all kinds of things are going to happen over the course of your lifetime that are not going to be easy. And there's no way around that. If you're a human being on this planet, that's part of your experience, and there's no escape from that. So, if you think, what the parent is saying is this, so if you think, oh, I'm going to try to fix that by making everything go my way, you're only going to suffer. Because you can't make everything go your way. That's not the nature of life on this planet. So, instead, now the one means, right? What's the one means? Train your mind to be happy anyway. Teach your mind how to be happy regardless of whether good things or bad things are happening. Then you'll have a great life. If you only have a great life when things are going your way, it's not going to be very stable, and you're going to have lots of ups and downs. But they're saying, if you can use difficult circumstances to train your mind, then you'll have a good life. Then you'll have a satisfying life. Then you'll be happier and happier over the course of years. Otherwise, it's totally unpredictable, right? Maybe you'll be happy one year, then something will happen, then you're be miserable, right? And how do you train your mind in this, all errors to be amended by one means? So then you may say, how do you do that though? Right? So what the advice is when something bad happens to you, right, which will happen, it relates back to the first point about compassion. What it's saying is, first of all, that happens to everybody. So don't worry so much. And remember that, right? So if you get sick, right, then think, well, I'm not the only one who's sick. Everybody gets sick on this planet, actually, right? The only people who don't get sick are people who die really young, which is even more suffering, right? And so let those experiences open your heart more to others. Then they become something that actually makes your life richer, not poorer, right? So like if you go through, even if you have like a, let's say a financial loss, right? Well, that's very common on this planet, actually, right? So many people have that. Mostly the only, well, actually everybody does, because even people who die rich, then they lose everything when they die. So it doesn't really matter. There's no escape, actually, from that, right? Or you lose someone you love, right? Everybody loses somebody. That's the nature of life, right? Because everybody loses somebody they love. So if you only preoccupy with yourself, then you're going to be totally miserable, right? But if you think, wow, well, everybody goes through this. I'm part of the shared experience of everybody. And you allow those experiences to increase your empathy, increase your love, and increase your compassion, then bad experiences will only make you stronger and more loving and more compassion. Right? Otherwise, what happens is you get discouraged, you feel down, you feel worse. And part of it, another way of saying it, is that you can't stop the bad things in life from sometimes happening. But what you can do is change how you interpret them, and you don't have to double your suffering by then thinking negatively about it. Right? So that's another way of saying it. So I said I want to go one more step, the third one, and then I'll sort of pause for comments. The third one is it says there are two activities at both the beginning and the end. And so, by the way, this metaphor of a wise parent is just my own. In other words, it doesn't say that in the commentary, but I think to me that's how I take this advice. Is like it's somebody trying their best to give wise advice to us. And actually, this one, the activity at the beginning and the end, is literally Lam-Rim often teaches this point. Almost every time, almost many times, Lam-Rim always is emphasizing this one, like a kind parent. And what it's saying is, the two activities, the beginning and the end, refer to the beginning and the end of your day. And what it's saying is, when you wake up in the morning, create a new habit. Rather than thinking, like, oh, what do I have to do today? I better hurry. Or rather than thinking, what kind of coffee am I going to have? Or something like that. Instead, you train your mind to think, okay, what's the purpose of my life? And there's a whole, actually, sequence of things. You can do a very simple one or complicated. There are different versions of this training that are taught. Like in Tantra, this particular one. But I'm just going to give the kind of the most straightforward. Which is this, is you think, I'm glad to be alive. That should be your first thought when you wake up, actually, is think, I'm glad to be alive because this life is unbelievably precious, and each day of this life is so precious. Actually, this life is all I have. I don't have anything other than this, is being alive today. And I don't know how long I'll live. There's no guarantee of that. So this day, right now, this moment, this hour, and this day are so precious, especially being a human being. Most living creatures on this planet are what? More insects, I think. And then come fish, right? I think is it insects then fish? I think so. Most living creatures on this planet are either an insect or a fish, right? I'm a person. And not just any person. I'm a person who can read and write, like unbelievable. And if we're here in this area, right, I have enough that I'm not starving to death. I'm not in dire straits. So that's unbelievable, actually, right? If you think of how many of the sentient creatures on this planet, right? Almost nobody has what you have, actually. And because of also like you can read about, and also you can study anything in the world you want to. If you live in this area, then for sure any knowledge you want to have, you can access it. If you look at like the entire history, right? First, all other creatures, right? Not human. Then among human beings, all the history of humans since they first arose to now, like the opportunity you have is totally unbelievable, right? If you want to study something from like ancient Tibet, like we're doing, then you can do that. Right? If you want to study something from ancient Greece, then you do that. If you want to study something from ancient Egypt, then you do that. If you want to study the newest scientific idea, boom, you can do that. If you want to study brain science, just type it on the internet, right? Go on Amazon or type it on the a search engine. So like, you have the most precious, unbelievable, nobody else actually ever. Right? I mean, the percentage of living creatures who have what you have is, you can say it's basically 0%, right? Like almost. If you were going to round it off, it would be 0. So the fact that you're alive today is unbelievably lucky. And there's no guarantee how long you'll live. All you have is today. So this is what you think in the morning. So I'm so fortunate to have this life. And then what's the best way to spend my life? What's the best way to spend this day? Right? And then, again, you can contemplate for yourself, but the general way to contemplate would be to say, it must be to live with compassion. Compassion for myself, compassion for others. Right? That's better than any other. Again, you can check out for yourself, but the Buddhist response would be this: compared to any other emotional state or motivational state, that's the best. If you say I'm going to live today with anger versus I'm going to live with compassion, there's no contest, right? But even if you say I'm going to live it just like not wanting anybody to bug me versus compassion, much better with compassion. So anyway, so you contemplate, right, that. And then you think, okay, so today I'm going to definitely try to live a day with compassion, making myself, of service to my own long-term interest and to others' long-term interest. So that's the beginning. That's the early part. Then at the end of the day, the advice is that, before you go to bed, you pause and you think, how did I do today? Was I really selfish? Was I mean? Was I kind? Was I helpful? And you sort of analyze that so that you can do better tomorrow. So you learn something from that day, right? Learn something about what's the most important. And when Lama Zopa teaches this, he often tells a story of a Tibetan teacher or something named Geshe Ben, who I guess early in his life was a robber and a thief. And then at a certain point he changed and became a Dharma practitioner. And they say that he was, it's just kind of funny I guess, but he used to, he was so strict about this point that each night he had a big pile of black pebbles and white pebbles. And he would, at the end of the day, he would count up how many good deeds and how many bad deeds he had done. And if he did more bad deeds than good, he would admonish himself. Like he would say, tomorrow try to do better. Here's what you can do. Let me give you some advice for tomorrow. He would talk to himself that night. And if he did well, he would go, okay, good job. Tomorrow you can even do one, that was great. Tomorrow do the same thing. This one do even more of that or something. So he would encourage himself. But the point is the reason why they tell that story is that Tibetans are really fond of people who started off really bad and became enlightened. Milarepa is the most famous, and Geshe Ben is also very famous. And the point is anybody can. The reason why they like stories like that is it shows anybody can improve, right? Whereas if you really check up on yourself and see what did I do right, what did I do wrong, tomorrow I'll do a tiny bit better. Right? It's like a very practical approach. That's the approach that the great yogi Milarepa took. It's the approach that this Geshe Ben took. But it's the only way to really change, right? Is you have to check and analyze yourself. So if we just think, oh yeah, I'll try to be a good person, but then you don't actually see what am I doing right, what am I doing wrong, then how do you correct yourself? You don't. And then what happens is, I'll just make a comment on that, then what happens is that years later, then sometimes people say, oh, I tried this training and mind training or training in bodhicitta or training in compassion. It doesn't work. I didn't really notice any difference. I tried it for 3 years and I didn't notice any big difference. But if you didn't notice any big difference, it's because you weren't checking on yourself, right? They were just saying, live with compassion, bodhicitta. I mean, that's a good start, but it doesn't actually do much, right? If you don't then check, okay, where am I making mistakes? How do I correct them? I'll correct it just a little bit. That's the hard work, though, right? It's hard to actually change your behavior and your thoughts. But if you do that, then for sure, it doesn't take 3 years. Just after a few months, you'll notice some little bit of change.